Revenge doesn't always have to be pro or nuclear to be good. No, sometimes it can be petty, like you'll see in this episode of Petty Revenge.
Our first one is from Jelly Lila, titled Mess With My Noodles? Here, have the result. I don't know if it really is petty. I do feel so though, so I thought I will share it here since I really enjoy your stories. I hope you enjoy mine. It was a few days before Christmas this year. We are renting from my parents. They do not live here, and they wanted to visit and also renovate the other empty unit. They had brought my brother B and his son, my nephew N. We are my partner, our daughter, and me. I believe in boundaries, also for kids. No hitting or anything, but kind explanations as why and what we are doing stuff. This led to my really sweet daughter of 2.5 to stop doing things as soon as I say stop, like don't touch the oven. Well, nephew, 3.5, has always been kinda wild. Not running in the woods wild, like daughter, but not listening even if I shout don't touch that goddamn hot oven wild. I think that as the bad wild. So they kinda dumped a nephew on me and went renovating. No problem, I just had to keep both eyes on him. My mother was over and wanted us to make lunch. Also, no problem. It started only when I unpacked my noodle machine. Electric. You add flour and water and it makes you noodles. I love that thing. Nephew wanted to play with dough. I told him there is none, but if he waits a bit, I will make some. Not good enough, and this one toddler also haven't learned patience yet. He decided to grab into the freshly made noodles and use the dough stamps on them. Daughter wanted to try it too, but I said no, don't do that to both. One listened. The other one looked at me and pinched the noodles harder. Of course, they are now more like a clump of dough mess with a bit noodle texture. I asked my mother to stop him from ruining the noodles while I sorted out. Her answer? He just wants to play, just give him some dough. I decided F it and just made some dough for them. But he continued to abuse my noodles. Mother, she is kind of one of his caretakers and I thought had more authority than me, just stood there and laughed. Yeah, sure, your lunch. I cooked the clumps as they are. I did try to pry them a bit, but they are fist-big clumps and unsavable. I just cooked them longer. B, my father, and mother complain the noodles are not as good as last time, and in clumps, and some are dissolving while others stay dry on the inside. I just looked at B and told him, complain to your son. He wanted to make dough bread with my noodles. I did serve my partner, daughter, and myself a new portion with no clumps. I hate clumps. I honestly feel this was the best way to go about the situation. I mean, the kid didn't want to listen, he ruined the meal, so what better way to get that point across than to feed the ruined meal to the kid's parent? This next one is by Devil May, titled Wanna Sit by the Window Seat? Okay. So my ex-boyfriend and I once went on vacation, and he had never been in a plane before. Our seats were separate because of late planning and it was cheaper. I had a window seat somewhere and he had an aisle seat, so I offered him mine. He happily accepted, and that's that. So on the plane back home, he actually had a window seat and I had a middle seat. I asked him if we could trade so I could sit by the window. He told me no, it was his spot and he wanted to sit there. I was kinda bummed, but okay. What do you know? 5 minutes later, the stewardess comes to ask me if I could change seats with someone up front. Because of her crutches, she wasn't allowed to sit near an emergency exit. So I got the seat in the front, with no one beside me, next to a window and a shit ton of extra leg space. My ex came whining to me that he wanted to switch seats now, so I happily told him to fuck off. The relationship didn't last very long after that. I can't imagine why the relationship didn't last that long. I do think it's funny on the way back though you ended up getting a way better seat than just the window seat that he had. This next one is from Helen a Handbasket, titled My House, My Rules. This happened years ago when my kids were preschool age. My mother-in-law, fortunately now ex-mother-in-law, never liked me much. She was always very critical of me and how I parented my kids. My daughter, about age 6, was one of those kids whose hair grew very slowly, and she had been trying for more than a year to grow her hair out long. Her bangs were at that weird stage where they're both too long and too short. I'd bought a bunch of fun little clips and hairbands for her to keep them back during the stage of growth, so her hair wasn't untidy in any way. Well, one weekend, my mother-in-law decided to take my 6-year-old daughter for a few hours. This was fine, something that occasionally happened. When she brought my daughter back, her beautiful hair she'd worked on so long was cut extremely short, like Tinkerbell short. My daughter was obviously distressed and in tears. I said, "What the fuck did you do?" to my mother-in-law, and she shrugged and said she was tired of my daughter's hair hanging in her face, and that in her house, little girls had to have tidy hair or it gets cut off. I was so angry, I told her to get out. Then I comforted my daughter and told her she was beautiful no matter what, that nobody had the right to tell her how her hair should be or cut it without her permission, and that I'd make sure it never happened again. Skip forward a few months. Mother-in-law had a couple of show cats, the real fluffy ones with flat faces. Himalayan? She dotted on those wheezing furballs. Thing is, she booked a cruise and needed someone to take care of them, so she brings them to my place to cat sit while she's gone. Enter the petty revenge. The day she was supposed to return and pick them up, I shaved them both to look like tiny lions. When she saw them, she exploded and started screaming at me, asking why I would do such a thing. I said in my house, cats need to have tidy hair or it gets cut off. She never touched my kid's hair again. Edit. Well, this blew up overnight. I didn't expect that. Thank you to everyone for the kind words and the awards. To those of you who are worried that I injured the animals, I understand your thoughts too. Rest assured that the cats didn't seem to care. They weren't harmed in any way, and their fur grew back without issue. I've known people that shave their cats due to the cat having just extremely long fur, and it's difficult for the cat to keep it clean and not tangled if they don't shave it. However, I think for this situation, the revenge is perfect. And our final one is by Less One More, titled No Street Parking. I live on a short, dead-end street. It's also not very wide, so there's no parking on the street anywhere. My daughter's boyfriend stopped by one day to quickly run in to pick something up. It wasn't 5 minutes, and the police show up and gives him a parking ticket. I knew who called. The witch across the street who thinks she is the queen of the neighborhood. Her house was built by her parents and was the first house on that street. She thinks that makes her entitled. Just 4 days later, I see a woman park in front of her house, on the street. It took about 15 minutes for the police to arrive after I called them. It filled me with joy down to my toes to see her argue with the officer. Didn't work, and he put the ticket on the windshield. If looks could kill, I wouldn't be here 10 years later to talk about it. This is why the golden rule exists. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't be like the lady across the street that's trying to get other people in trouble for your own amusement, otherwise it might come around and bite you in the ass. Alright, that's enough revenge for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Petty Revenge. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell and drop a comment down below. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.